Hello everyone, I'm Kumiko Ninomiya from Umami Information Center. Today, I am going to explain about very basic information about umami and MSG. Before start talking about umami and MSG, let's watch the short movie on the history of umami.
From approximately 150 years ago, many kinds of modern seasonings and instant broth have been developed to improve people's diets. In 1865, the German scientist Liebig developed Liebig's extract of meat, a concentrated beef extract. In 1871, Liebig's extract of meat was marketed in the UK as Bovril. This became a beloved national food. 1902, Marmite utilized yeast that was used in the beer brewing process. 1908, the concentrated bouillon Maggi cube. Oxo soup was supplied to marathon runners at the London Olympics as an energy drink. And in 1908, Dr. Kikunai Ikeda, a Japanese scientist, discovered that a key taste substance of kombu seaweed stock was glutamate, a type of amino acid.
And he named it umami. Dr. Ikeda discovered that combining glutamate and sodium created the taste most similar to kombu seaweed stock. He developed a method to extract glutamate from hydrolyzed wheat protein to manufacture monosodium glutamate and got a production patent. In 1909, an entrepreneur, Saburosuke Suzuki, and Dr. Ikeda began the industrial production of monosodium glutamate and commercialized it. Umami seasoning was born. In the 1920s, umami seasoning, MSG, was exported to China, Korea, and also the United States. MSG has since become indispensable as a seasoning to improve the taste of cooking. It is widely used in Hawaii and the mainland US for meat, vegetable dishes, and soup. It is loved as a gourmet powder in households as well as by famous chefs, and is often seen in cookbooks, magazines, and recipes. In 1948 and 55, the Quartermaster Food and Container Institute for the U.S. Armed Forces held the MSG Symposium in Chicago with the objective of improving acceptance of Army food. Around 100 people participated in the symposia, including from the Research Institute for U.S. Armed Forces, U.S. food manufacturers, and food service industries. Numerous studies introduced in the symposia showed that MSG brings out the original flavor of vegetables, meat, and seafood, improves the flavor in canned and frozen foods, and supports the mental and physical condition by improving the monotonous taste of military food.
However, in 1968, the New England Journal of Medicine introduced a letter sent to the editor with the title Chinese Restaurant Syndrome. This letter was written by a doctor, suggesting that symptoms such as a burning sensation of the face and numbness of the neck and shoulders after eating Chinese dishes may be due to the food's high sodium content, Chinese cooking wine, or perhaps MSG. He asserted the need for clinical testing. Despite having been consumed safely throughout the world for over 35 years, this letter triggered widespread rumors that MSG was the cause. Many restaurants promoted their food as having no MSG to attract customers, which reinforced the misunderstanding. On the other hand, monosodium glutamate continues to be used for lots of food without any health-related reports. It is popularly used throughout the world. This is because food makers also adequately understand that MSG is safe and can add umami to their products. In the 1970s, environmental pollution and health damage caused by pesticides became a public problem, and many consumer groups were established in each country for the purpose of protecting consumers. Through the general meeting of consumer groups around the world, safety issues regarding MSG and urban legend spread in many countries. Though many world authorities repeatedly confirmed the safety of MSG from the 1950s, myths surrounding MSG still existed. From the 1990s, umami attracted the attention of many chefs due to the globalization of chefs around the world and a recent boom in Japanese cuisine.
In the 2000s, umami receptors in our tongue and stomach were discovered, and it was more widely accepted that umami is a basic taste. As the understanding of umami deepened, not only scientists but also chefs, dietitians, and food journalists gradually gained an understanding of MSG. Top journalists joined the discussion and began urging a re-evaluation of the persistent misunderstanding. Since 2004, the Umami Information Center has continued to organize symposiums and seminars on umami with chefs and scientists, aiming to spread correct information about umami and monosodium glutamate. In 2018, the World Umami Forum was held in New York. This was an initiative to deepen understanding of umami and to correct misunderstandings about MSG. We actively publicize that monosodium glutamate is the purest umami substance and that monosodium glutamate equals umami itself. MSG's function of improving flavor while reducing salt in food captured considerable attention by many dietitians participating in the forum. Thus, scientifically backed information about the safety and benefits of MSG is being accumulated. There has been much research, unbiased discussion, and activities to raise awareness about umami. The functions of umami are being noticed in many fields in addition to cooking, such as nutrition and physiology. For delicious meals, health, and the enriched lifestyles of people around the world. Our mission is to gain accurate knowledge and utilize umami, and to pass this on to future generations.
Umami is one of the basic tastes alongside sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. Any kind of taste are imparted by chemical substances. For example, sweetness of sugar is imparted by substances which is called sucrose. Saltiness of salt is imparted by sodium chloride. Acetic acid in vinegar and citric acid in lemon juice are sourness. Bitterness is imparted by caffeine in coffee, and if you feel bitterness in grapefruit, it is imparted by naringin. The most typical umami substances are glutamate. Glutamate is in tomato, meat, fish, and fermented foods like cheese and fish sauces. Other umami substances are called inosinate and guanylate. Inosinate is highly concentrated in animal foods like meat and fish. Guanylate is especially concentrated in dried mushrooms. Fresh mushroom has glutamate, and guanylate is produced in the process of dehydration of dried mushrooms. This means that dried mushrooms has glutamate and guanylate and strong umami taste. Before talking about umami, I'd like to explain about the relationship between protein and glutamate. There are 20 kinds of amino acids in protein. Protein is a long chain of different types of amino acids. Protein itself is a very big molecule and there is no taste. But when protein is decomposed into different types of amino acids, any kind of amino acid has different taste. And glutamate is the most important taste substance in part umami. All living things, such as plants and animals, are producing glutamate in their body. Thus, vegetables, fruit, meat, and fish contains more or less glutamate. We eat these kind of foods every day. This means that every day we take glutamate from a variety of foods. Let me talk about the distinct properties of umami. Now, I would like to explain how to identify umami in umami-rich foods. Tomato and cheese are very suitable foods to try to identify umami. If you get dried tomato, it's better than fresh tomato because water is removed from drying process and the glutamate is concentrated more than fresh tomato. Parmesan cheese is very high concentration of glutamate. This is also a good food item to identify umami. If you get dried tomato, before eating dried tomato, please try to dip water to moisturize your mouth. Then place one piece of tomato in your mouth and try to chew the tomato at least 20 to 30 times. Please carefully identify any kind of taste in tomato. First of all, you feel sweet and sour. And then, after eating tomato, you still have something on your tongue. It's very ambiguous and subtle sensation. This is umami. There are three distinct natures of umami taste. Number one is umami lasts longer than other tastes. Umami includes salivation. And umami spreads throughout the tongue. These three major characteristics are very important to identify umami. Our first encounter with taste is breast milk. Unfortunately, no one remembers the taste of breast milk, but as it is shown in this graph, glutamate is very high concentration in the breast milk. This slide shows facial expression of babies by different tastes. He responded positively to sweet taste, but he responded negatively to sour taste and bitter taste. When he tried to eat vegetable soup, he didn't like the soup because this is low concentration of glutamate and no salt in the soup. But when 0.1% of MSG is added to the same soup, he liked the soup taste. This means that sweetness and umami is important taste and they accept these two tastes because sweet is a signal of energy intake and umami is a signal of protein intake. And sourness is a signal of spoiled food and bitterness is a signal of toxin. Taste are a very important gatekeeper of nutrient. Let me talk about the soup stock in different countries. Soup stock is usually made by cooking meat or fish and vegetables for a long time. But in Japan, most typical soup stock is made from dried seaweed kombu. The left side picture shows amino acids found in Japanese soup stock. There are only two amino acids, glutamate and aspartate. These two amino acids has umami taste. The right side picture shows amino acids found in chicken soup stock. There are a variety of amino acids in the soup stock. So this means that Japanese soup stock is a very simple umami liquid, but chicken soup stock has complex taste of mixture of different types of amino acids. This is the biggest difference between Japanese soup stock and Western-style soup stocks. Umami was first discovered by Professor Kikunae Ikeda, Japanese scientist, and then he tried to make a new seasoning based on glutamate. He tried to make a hydrolyzation of wheat protein to get free amino acid mixture. Then he isolated only glutamate to make new seasoning monosodium glutamate. And MSG was first marketed in Japan in 1909. In Switzerland, Julius Maggi tried to make an easy-to-cook soup stock. He tried to make an amino acid mixture from dehydration of chicken soup stock, and he used the free amino acid mixture to make a new seasoning which is called bouillon cube. Both Ikeda and Maggi aim to improve people's nutritional states through developing a new seasoning which would easy to cook meals in the kitchen. But food culture in Japan and Europe is quite different. Ikeda used just glutamate to make a new seasoning MSG, but Maggi used amino acid mixture to make a new seasoning bouillon cube. Let's see seasonings in the kitchen: salt, sugar, and MSG. Salt is a crystals of sodium chloride, sugar is a crystals of sucrose, and MSG is a crystals of monosodium glutamate. All of them are white crystals, but when carefully look them through microscope, salt is dice-shaped, sugar is trapezoidal shape, and MSG is needle shape. These crystals is an evidence of pureness with no contaminant. Just as salt is seasoning gives saltiness, and sugar gives sweetness, MSG is the purest form of umami to add the umami taste to the dishes. These three seasonings are widely used around the world because just give the simple taste without any aroma. Now I am going to talk about synergistic effect of umami taste. Though the taste of glutamate itself is very subtle and ambiguous, it's greatly enhanced by the combination with inosinate or guanylate. Umami taste intensity of glutamate and inosinate or glutamate and guanylate is enhanced up to 7 to 8 times higher than that of single glutamate. This mechanism is called synergism and is a typical effect of umami taste. If you have basic knowledge which foods are rich in glutamate and which foods are rich in inosinate or guanylate, you can get strong umami taste in the dishes. This figure shows glutamate in various foods. Parmesan cheese is the king of umami-rich foods, followed by dried tomato and tomato. This graph shows nucleotide contents in foods. Inosinate is concentrated in meat and fish. Guanylate is highly concentrated in dried mushrooms. Guanylate is produced in the process of dehydration of dried mushrooms. Fresh mushroom has glutamate, and dried mushrooms has both glutamate and guanylate. This means that dried mushrooms has strong umami taste because of synergistic effect. If you would like to know more data on glutamate, inosinate, and guanylate in variety of foods, please visit website of Umami Information Center. We introduced the glutamate, inosinate, and guanylate concentration in more than 800 food items. Healthy eating is one of the hot issues around the world. People would like to enjoy healthier and tastier eating. This is a low-salt scrambled egg recipe developed by Chef Chris Ketoke, who has been working with us to educate people working in the culinary fields. He usually makes a 2-to-1 mixture of salt and MSG in his kitchen, and he used the mixture for salt. It is a very smart way to reduce salt and to get umami taste. Low salt scrambled egg is more flavorful compared to normal recipe. This is a recipe of broccoli pasta. Broccoli is boiled in hot water with added MSG. Then pasta is boiled in the water which was used of cooking broccoli. MSG brings out original taste and flavor of broccoli, and pasta is dressed by broccoli flavor and umami taste. This is also a unique way to use MSG in the kitchen. If you are interested in role of MSG in low salt soup, please try to cook vegetable soup with only 0.3% MSG. No bouillon cube is used to cook the vegetable bouillon. Try to taste the soup. Since salt concentration is quite low in this soup, the taste is boring and watery. But if you add 0.1% MSG to the soup, the taste becomes more flavorful, deeper, milder, and rounder taste. This is typical effect of MSG in the dishes. There are two key messages in tastier and healthier solution with lower salt by adding MSG. Number one, MSG enhances the flavor of foods by adding umami, which is one of the 5 basic tastes. Number two, MSG has 2/3 less sodium than table salt, and it enhances the flavor of foods while decreasing the need for salt. It is possible up to 40% sodium reduction by using MSG. Using MSG is a simple way to achieve tastier and healthier dishes with low salt. This is the last part of my talk, Traditional Umami Around the World. This map shows typical umami-rich traditional ingredients in the world. The process of cooking foods is a very unique human activity. Humans have developed a way to achieve umami in different places in the world. In Western countries, tomato-based products are often used as condiments to add flavor to various dishes. They are not only fresh tomato, but also tomato paste, dried tomato, and ketchup, and so on. Glutamate is also highly concentrated in aged cheese, anchovy sauce or paste, cured ham. In Eastern countries, fermented fish and beans are often used for cooking. Fish sauces and fermented shrimp and shellfish in Southeast Asian countries, miso and soy sauce in Japan are traditional liquid and paste of umami-rich condiments. Even though people in ancient culture did not know any knowledge about umami, people developed unique production process to increase glutamate. Umami is a taste that people pursued over the long history. Let's talk about umami and MSG with confidence. and try to make your own umami story to introduce the familiar foods or dishes in your country. From today, you are umami ambassador. If you have difficult to answer question, please try to send messages to Umami Information Center's website. We are always ready to answer those questions. Thank you very much for your attention.